napakarami pong tao. At mega shoutout nga pala sa lahat ng ating team achievers, Team Payaman, Team Pinoy Core, Team Livewire, and Team Brocha. At as you can see, ito po yung ating event. At ito po ay Albeo through Ayala Land. Ayan po. At yan po yung mga property na po pwede.
We will request everyone to start settling down. We'll start the program in 5 minutes. Thank you.
At napaka-organized po ng event na ito, na event ng Ayala Land. At yan po yung mga participant dito sa event. At yan po. Yan po ang aking mga kaibigan. Yan po si Clarence, guys. Yan yung napakabait at napakasipag at napaka-responsableng ano po ng Ayala Land. At kasama ko po siyang bumiyahe sa LA. At siya rin po yung makakasama ko sa pupuntahan pa naming ibang lugar. Nakakasama ang pag-encourage ng encouragement sa mga investment ng mga Pilipino dito sa Amerika. At yan si Madam Letty. Kaway-kaway. Si Wosvik. Ayan. Yan ang napakasimpleng milyonaryo. Ito naman si Madam na best friend ng mami ni Clarence. Yan. At napaka-cute po. Tingnan yung dimple. Ayan po yung aking one and only. Pero tatlo sila. Joke. Tatlo sila, nanay at tatay ko, siya yung siya yung pangatlo. At napaka-organized po nitong event na ito dito sa Hyatt Hotel. Yan po yung mga dessert na sinerve. At kasama po ang soup. Yan, yung soup. At yan po yung mga pagkain. Yan. There we go. Yan. Ito ay bread, salad. Yan. At ito ay I think sweet sugar crusted sweet cinnamon. And this is the mixed vegetable, and herbs wrap, breast of chicken. Yan po. At ayan po yung I think this is salmon. Yeah, seared salmon. Ayan po. At napaka po. Yan. At mag-uumpisa na po tayo in a few minutes. Yan po ang mga Pilipinong investor sa bansang Pilipinas. At mega love shoutout sa lahat. At maraming salamat sa pagbisita sa aking channel. At nawa ay maging bahagi ito ng ating programa sa mga Pilipino dito sa bansang Amerika na maging investor po sa bansang Pilipinas. At mega love shout out to everyone. At samahan niyo po kami sa aming event na ito dito sa Hyatt Regency Hotel sa San Francisco, California. At nawa ay makatulong ito sa inyong mga pinaplano na isa sa maging form of investment ninyo na development ng Ayala Land. At alam naman po natin ang Ayala Land ay established na po for more than 30 years sa bansang Pilipinas. Kaya po samahan nyo kami. Ito po si Ka-DIY. Ikot po tayo rito at makikita nyo po mga Pilipinong investor dito po sa Amerika.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Enjoy your lunch. much. So let me greet everyone again. Good, more earnings, everyone. Yes, you heard me right. I said more earnings, not just morning, because we know that it's one of the reasons why you are here with us today. So we're very pleased with your presence, and we assure you that it will be really definitely more earnings because one, more earnings in terms of financial aspects, so return on investment and things like that, yield. More earnings, secondly, because you wanted to learn what's the news back in the Philippines, and also what are the different offerings that we will bring to you this afternoon. And lastly, more earnings because in Ayala Land, our vision and mission is really enhancing land and enriching lives. Yun. So we hope that at the end of the presentation, will help enrich your lives through the presentation today. So, for the US, is really one of our favorite countries. It's because it's home to more than 6 million of Filipinos here in the US, and just here in San Francisco alone, around 300,000. So every time we come back, we're always welcome with a big smile from our kababayans. Yun. So I won't delay much. I'm sure you're very excited as much as we are. So let me introduce our guest speaker for today. I need the código because he has so much credentials. Yes. So our keynote speaker for today is the President and CEO of Brown Ventures. It's actually one of the largest distributors of investment funds in the Philippines. He is an active entrepreneur with companies and endeavors in multiple industries. He is the lead independent director of Globe Telecom, of Ayala Land Logistics Holding Corporation, and independent director for Ayala Land and National Reinsurance Corporation. These are all listed companies in the Philippine Stock Exchange. He is the chairman of Singapore Life Philippines. In the Soldivo Funds, he is also a director of Esquire Financing. G Exchange Inc., or much known as GCash in the Philippines. Seedbacks Technologies. Seven Tall Trees Events Management, it's actually the Blue Leaf. Mobile, Group Inc., and many other leading companies in different fields. He is recognized as one of the best business leadership, finance, marketing, and sales speakers in the country. He's also a best-selling author. His book is Trailblazing Success and Firing on All Cylinders. A financial advisor and business mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm applause to Mr. Rex Mendoza.
Thank you, Ida. Good afternoon. First of all, let me thank you for being here. So much to do on a Saturday afternoon, but you elected to be here, and we're really privileged. We flew all the way back from Manila to make this presentation for you. And I guess many people will get to ask, why now? I mean, isn't this the probably worst of times? Is this a time to talk about investments? Well, the answer to that is a bit of a memory for me. I know that many of you were here when I presented Surrendra, New Valley, and a project called Senta in 2008. 2008 was even worse times for many people. But at that time when we were presenting it, people even said, Rex, there are other properties here that are doing so well. Sacramento, Las Vegas. Why will we invest in the Philippines? And I guess they are here today because they're happy about the decision they made, right? I really like to look back at that time because as an investor, it wouldn't have afternoon, right? I have to have a specific amount of time to speak. And I really feel so bad about that because I know you have questions. And those questions can be real. You'd really want answers to those to come up with steps ahead. So what I'll do, instead of coming up with an open forum to take everybody's time, I'd probably make myself available. I'll hop from table to table if you have questions for me later on. The other issue for me is the level of technicality. You know, I'm sure many people here are quite adept with investments. So basically, I'd really have to take my talk to their level, not too much to their level, because there are other people as well who are not too entrenched in investments that I might get to lose them. So I'll probably be somewhere in the middle. So at the time when I move from table to table later on, you can come up with the questions and we can be as technical as you want to get. And maybe we can also be as general as what you want to get. I mean, we can also discuss these things in layman terms. As I've said, I'm an investment professional. I'm able to talk investments to my kids when they were grade 5. So I can talk about mutual funds and investment funds, much like any baker will bake pie. So I can also get to do that. So I'm going to be mentioning a lot of these great quotes, and maybe this is from Howard Marks, somebody who's not going to be too much in the limelight for many of you, but he says this: when economic growth is slow or negative and markets are weak, most people worry about losing money. And they miss out on taking advantage of opportunities. This is very real. Now, as I've said, I'm in the investment funds world, and this guy is quite a pillar there, is Sir John Templeton. And he says this: bull markets are born on pessimism, grown on skepticism, mature on optimism, and die on euphoria. What does that mean? That investors will have to be a step ahead. Investors will have to be a step ahead. If you're just following the market as it is, you're going to be too late. And as we see the problems there now, not just here in the US, but also in the Philippines, it can be a great opportunity because it is when skepticism and pessimism would be all up in the air. But for most part, let's focus on the emotion. This is what gets in the way. This is the reason why a lot of CFOs do well for the money of their companies, but they don't do well for their own money. Because we have stuff like greed, emotion, that would probably sow fear that you get to make the wrong decision. So it's almost like from a little bit of excitement and exuberance, you fall into despondency, you get into a capitulation, and you just get to say, I don't want this anymore. This is wrong for me. And after you drop that stock, or after you drop that real estate investment, that's the time when the market crawls back. It is actually when the times are bad that you take positions. It is when the night is darkest that the stars shine brightest. So that is easier said than done. I will have to relate this truth to you because the reality is we go through all of that again and again and again. But history gets to repeat itself for people who never learn. I was just talking to a cousin and I told him, I've been in this market for about 40 years. And it's still very tough for me to take a position during the bad times. It's easier said than done. When you're in the quandary, when you're in the pits, like many of us are seeing right now, it's so hard to make that decision. And for most part, this shows you, sorry for using this, but I use market indices like the Dow Jones Industrial Average to give a sense of what business people and investors feel about the market. So this is essentially a view of how things are. So when I was in New York and heading towards LA to make this presentation, the Dow was down 16, fell and pierced 30,000. It was 29,889, and this went to minus 18. Just a week later, the Dow is now 31,501, which is 5% higher than last week. If you're going to be following all the gyrations, you're not going to make a move. I mean, it's almost like people are saying, okay, is it recovering now? Is this it? And when you say it's going to fall once again. So think about it. Do we manage the economy or do we manage our own personal economy? We can never control the weather, but we control our ship. We're the captains of our ship. The more relevant is a personal economy. And that's something that you manage, your own cash flows, your positioning, your asset allocation. That's what's key. But the flip side to this is looking at that and understanding it. That will have to give you the comfort. Take a look at the reasons why that's happening. The US has an inflation rate that's probably the highest in recent memory. You've hit 8.3% in April. It went up to about 8.6 in May. That is a very high rate. If I'm going to go back since 1945, that inflation rate is higher than the surge in oil prices in 2010. That's higher than the first Gulf War and the late 1960s economic boom. That is really a problem. You know, this whole Russia-Ukraine war is going to be affecting a lot of countries. And the US is not going to be exempt from that. The thing is, the Fed will have to adjust and respond to this, as governments do. So what do? Raise interest rates. That's the reason why business is getting stuffed. Business plans, expansions, somehow might not happen. Why? Because of higher interest rates. For the first time since 1994, the Fed implemented a 75 beep or points, basis points towards the interest rates. First time. That's how serious it was. The last 75 beep change was in 1994. But you see, what's worrisome is the succession. Why? Because just about a month ago, the US came up with a 50 basis point adjustment. For the first time since 2000, the 50 basis points was done. What makes it worse is April, it already did an adjustment with the 25 basis points. So for the first time in decades, the last one was 2006, so it's almost 2 decades, you have 2 successive rate increases, and for the first time since the 90s, 3 successive increases. Will they stop? The answer is no. They're even throwing growth on the sidelines. They don't care about the growth. They care about curbing inflation. And you're going to see this exacerbated by demand because inflation is going down. Employment. Unemployment is bottoming out. It might go up again. So employment is going down. And there's an issue here because the consumer demand that's supposed to be fueling a recovery will not be there. So what's the buzzword now? It's called stagflation. Stagflation is the time when you have low or negative economic growth, your GDP is negative, and there's a fear of recession because you already have 1 quarter of negative GDP, high inflation, and obviously rising unemployment, which further lowers demand. So there is an issue in the US economy, and they're trying to respond to it and trying to correct it. But is it just the US? No. Inflation is a problem of 52 countries, representing about 1.8 billion people in the world. Back of the war between Ukraine and Russia is about 1.5%, 1 to 1.5% thereabouts all over the world. So technically, it's not one nation's problem. It's a global issue. But let me just give you a glimpse of where the Philippines would be. See, Warren Buffett said this: be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. We say easier said than done. But if you're ever going to do it, what are your options? You cannot just take the plunge. You'll have to take an intelligent plunge. And the option? Maybe your own country. Yes, this is down. It's down 11.3%. When I updated it for LA, 6,319 became 6,332, which upped it to about minus 11.1. But because the US came up with an uptick of interest rates and your Dow Jones Industrial Average recovered 800 points just last Friday, the Philippines went down to about 6,218. But I will assure you, once it opens on Monday, that will be up because of the Dow Jones closing of 800 points further. So what am I saying here? You can actually watch this on a daily basis like I do, but there's a problem here. It's my job, it's not yours. Right? So if you get to lose the same hair that I lost over the years, it's because of following these things, right? It's because of all the tension that you have to live with. That's why today I'd also ask other people to do it for me, so that I can take a few days off in San Francisco to shop a bit, right? But again, if I overlay that, somehow you're gonna be surprised. The Philippines will be doing a little better, or maybe much better than the US. Our inflation is not 8.6, it's 5.4, and we're already alarmed with that. We'd like to see it between 3 to 4%. And that's the reason why we followed suit. We also increased the rates to 2.25. However, there's a difference. In the Philippines, we increased the rate for one reason alone, to defend the exchange rate. Not to curb the inflation as it is in the US, because it's way up, 8.6. But that will solve it. That will be a natural implication of an increased rate. However, let me tell you this, the exchange rate, as many of you know, has dropped to about 24.7 last Friday. Did you hear about it? 54.7. 54.7, right? Now, in the past, when you see 54.7 or when you see the peso really weakening, it's because of your foreign exchange reserves. In the past, when we hit 55, our foreign exchange reserves were down to 2 months of our imports. That was a real fiscal problem. Today, we have record foreign exchange reserves, over 100 billion pesos. We're even lending to the IMF on that side. And to make sure that it's not what impacts us, imports are covered for close to about a year. That is key. So when you look at increasing rates right now, it's almost like we're doing it in parity with what the US or other countries are doing. But given the choice, we're going to be focusing on growth because the Philippines is an emerging market. We don't want this growth to be curtailed, and that growth is sending these unemployment numbers down. As I've said, it's not the absolute numbers at times that would be more important, it's the direction it's headed. So from 8.7, it dropped about almost 30% to 5.7 and continuously dropping. So much so that the Philippine economy is growing at 8.3%. 8.3%. Now, let me tell you this, and this is a very, very glaring number. Have reported earnings, and the average rate of earnings growth is between 46 to 47% in 2021. 2021, we just came from an average growth rate of 46 to 47 in all of our companies that comprise the Philippine Stock Exchange Index. And why is that so? Let me give you where it's coming from. Obviously, part of that comes from you. OFW remittances coming from the US, record numbers. In 2020, At the dawn of the
Grabe,
pandemic,
ano?
people are
8
saying
billion, 8
OFW
billion point
remittances
6 ang
will drop by
OFW.
20%.
Ang laki pala ng impact ng
The whole of
OFW.
2020, the drop in OFW remittances was less than 1%. And in 2021, it already grew by 6%, higher than pre-pandemic growth. Today, in 2022, it's hitting a record number of 8.65 billion in the first quarter. The BPO, which is another pillar of growth, is estimated to have 29 billion in revenue by the end of the year. As companies all over the world, and here in the US, are trying to scrimp and push costs down, guess what happens? They ship a lot of work to places like the Philippines because here, accounting firms are so expensive. Do you know that SGV, one of our leading, it's an Ernst & Young company, the leading auditors and accounting firms in the Philippines, they have devoted 25% of their operations for US accounting initiatives because they're getting paid US rates and they're still paying Philippine wages. So you're going to see these two pillars pushing
Mega
things
love
up.
shout
But there's
out
a third
kay
pillar,
Erwin Polenday.
and it's tourism.
And thank you. And
We're fresh off the blocks, we're
maraming
leading
salamat
as we
sa
opened up
pagbisita sa
our
aking
doors
channel dito
to
sa
foreign visitors.
Career
April 1,
Y
we
vlog
took out all
event
the
in
requirements
Hyatt
for entry
Regency
to the Philippines.
Hotel in San Francisco,
It's not going to be
California.
required anymore. What you need to show would be proof of vaccination. That's it. And because of that, the Global Travel and Tourism Council, the summit was even done in the Philippines. So it's an understanding that this pillar is going to continuously grow, and we didn't actually wait for April. As early as February, we have 50,000 visitors already. I haven't had the latest count, but this should be higher by this month. Look at the death rate of COVID right now. We are opening up the market. You guys have been open here for so long. In the Philippines, we had very strict quarantine protocols. And as we lift them, the economic activity will even be more intensive. If you look at the real estate companies, many people discounted the operation of malls because there are no people in the malls, right? Because of the quarantine restrictions. When these were lifted, we're already up to about 80 to 85% foot traffic before the pandemic. But there are issues. I mean, I'm not going to color it so rosy because the point is that there are contentious issues, and one is national debt. Our national debt has hit 63% of GDP, and that's concerning. And why? Because we borrowed for the pandemic, and before that, we borrowed for build. For me, as an investor, I don't have a problem with debt for as long as it goes to the right direction. Right? I mean, when you borrow and you lose the money, that's a problem. But when you borrow and you invest it in stuff that will make the country
Team
grow,
Bronche.
that will make the country have
Mega love
the
shout out
right
to all
and
you
proper
guys.
infrastructure
And
to
thank you
support
for
growth,
watching my
then
video.
you'll be better off in the future.
Kerloy Vlog, mega
And
love
my
shout out. At
basic response to this is,
maraming
we're worried
salamat
about
sa
63%
pagbisita
of
sa aking
GDP.
channel.
The US is over 100% of GDP. Japan is over 200%. Even if it has an overhead road that connects Makati to Balintawak, something that does an hour and a half is now 18 minutes.
Yeah.
And mind you, I timed it. I
Yeah.
timed it myself. So you will see connectors like that. You will see a new airport
galing
soon
ako
in
ng
Bulacan, and
papunta
a
ako ng
railway that
Manila.
connects Clark
Like 15 minutes.
all the way down to Calamba, Laguna.
Grabe, as in
Connecting
grabe
all the
talaga.
airports. So we'll get to miss those
Ang luwag pati
OFWs
ng
leaving
kalsada.
with 3 jeepneys to bring them
Expressway.
to the airport, right?
Wala
As
pa.
people can now ride the train to be able to do that. There are issues regarding non-performing government-owned and controlled corporations. The big three that I put on board here would be GSIS, SSS, and PhilHealth. This is huge trouble. It has to be really fixed. And for me, it's not even a question of leadership. It's already a question of organization and structure. The real issue is so entrenched, you don't really change this by changing the head. You really have to do a restructuring of the entire organization. Our pensions, our future retirees will be in peril if you don't fix that. But I think the big issue is also universal health, because we just came up with the universal healthcare law, and the real cornerstone to that implementation will be PhilHealth. So let me be very, very frank and honest here. I have to disclose it. I was a director of PhilHealth for 3 months in 2019. Being a CEO of an insurance company, I was CEO of AIG, or Philem Life, if you remember it, in the Philippines. And I served as CEO for about 4 years. Because the USHC is going to be implemented, they asked me to sit down on the board of PhilHealth. Okay? 3 board meetings in 3 months. I'm out of it. Okay? It's too much of reputational risk for me. I know things are not gonna be right when you have 300
Pero may
to
binigay na maganda
600
sa rito sa
million
Amerika.
in scams, cataract, dialysis scams, not being discussed at the board.
Walang trabaho.
But a claim of 14,000 pesos would be discussed for about an hour and a half. Right? It's almost like, pwede pa bayaran ko na lang yan para makatapos na tayo dito. Di ba? But you see, that's the issue. We will have to correct these things, and they are big. Look at those numbers. 843.9 billion future liabilities because of pension deficiencies. GSIS narrows down to 18.7 billion. 18.7 is still a big number, but it already narrowed down to 18.7. SSS is the big issue as well. I think you all know, you're following news in the Philippines. We have a new cabinet. Okay, how do I discuss this? How can you discuss politics in an apolitical way? It's almost like impossible, right? But I'm gonna take a stab at it. You see, I'm not going to be after personalities. I'm just going to be very, very pragmatic. I look at this cabinet, frankly, mixed bag. Frankly. But I will be very selective, right? Who's going to be very relevant for me? Relevant ones for me would be the economic team. Because that's the real thrust for the country. And if you're going to be looking at the economic team, my only negative feeling about this is that they're all seniors, right? I mean, I would have wanted a Carl Kendrick Chua Perneda who's like young Turk, right? But see, when we're after experience, right? Jokno has been budget secretary, has been central bank governor, and now finance secretary. I mean, I'm not gonna be putting my bets on guys like that because of the experience and because of our situation. Maybe that kind of selection is good. Now let me tell you, Alfredo Pascual, who's going to head up DTI, is my finance professor. And my finance professor. And quite frankly,
Mega
why do
love
I
shoutout
like
kay
to see
MB
him
Vlogs
there?
official, and
Because he's not a BBM
thank you
supporter.
for visiting my channel. Maraming
He was
salamat
ready.
at mega love shoutout
And
sa inyong lahat.
He told the president when he was being asked to take the TTI, okay, maybe we didn't believe him with that unity stuff, but at least, he's starting quite well on this thing, right? So, guys, this is my point. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But let me be serious about this. You see, I've stayed in the Philippines all my life. I would have options of staying in New York for AIG. I interned there twice. I trained there twice. Right? I could have stayed
Yeah,
here.
si
in
Rex
Martin
Mendoza
Emerson.
at
I also did some
siya yung
jobs for
aming
Sun
speaker
America
at
sometime
sa
in the early 2000s.
investment
But I
property
elected to
event
stay in the
here in
Philippines.
San
But I tell you
Francisco,
this,
California.
quite frankly, the great presidents never made me rich. It's actually the questionable ones that gave me great opportunities. And many people, honestly, bitch around about the problems of the country. problems that give investors opportunities, and opportunities of also giving back to the country. That's my contention here. And that's the reason why I will have to look at this from a very different lens. But hey, I'd like to see platforms of government keep policies and main priorities. I haven't seen that yet. I will be very pragmatic. I'm not going to hear that in a campaign speech. Why? Because they don't win you elections. So I'd rather see them now, as we already have the administration in place. He has already won. Critical leadership appointments, GOCCs, again, that's very important. And the response to current issues. One is the COVID situation. We're not out of the woods yet. We still need to get out of the woods on that one. And second, still the economic view. With our growth, how do we maintain that? Build, 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 how do we continue infrastructure development? And lastly, how we get to respond to growth and inflation, being on two sides of the fence. Investing is not going to be great with what's comfortable. Investing in what's comfortable is rarely profitable. So as you think about what to invest in, what would be probable options? Over the long term, we pin it down to real estate. And I will say, quite frankly and honestly, that the difference is stark when you get to compare US real estate and Philippine real estate. In the US real estate market, you can see peaks and troughs. I mean, they can move like stocks, right? But in the Philippines, we're always behind when it comes to supply. Our housing backlog still is at 8 million homes. So it's never going to be a function of supply. It's a function of affordability, of people willing to buy those units. And that's the only reason why certain things get to fluctuate, but they don't exactly get to fluctuate much. See, over time, in the Philippines, as you move from short-term to long-term, stocks and real estate would probably seem like they're the most risky. But as you move towards the long-term, they're going to be the safer bets. And I think for many of you who have real estate properties in the Philippines, you can actually back me up on this one. I mean, over the long term, you will always see real estate to be a safer hold than many other places. Now, I'd want to list down the real issues or the real pluses on real estate. Number one, it's a great inflation hedge. As you see inflation going up, interest rates going up, real estate is going to be such a good hedge because replacement value is an issue. The cement, the steel bars, the glass that's put in buildings will never be priced the same. It will never go back to the time their prices were 5 years ago. And that's the reason why, quite frankly, there is a natural growth in terms of price appreciation. Rice growth with limited downside. Highly correlated with infrastructure development.
Shoutout sa inyong lahat.
Hey, in the US probably. In the US. In the Philippines, very hard to think about that. Number one, our internet is so bad. Please don't record me for that one. I'm the lead independent director of Globe. But it's true, right? How can you work from home if your internet is not that reliable? Number two, how cramped are our homes in the Philippines?
They have it already. SpaceX.
If you have students studying from home, or parents working from home, sharing a Wi-Fi that's probably right for a toddler. Right? And let's face it, there's so many pasaways, right? Productivity is low when you don't have the supervision. For the Philippine offices, you will have to have supervision. So I go to the extent of saying maybe 1 day a week can be work from home. Or maybe stretch it to 2 days a week, but 3 days a week will have to be work from the office. So look at real estate indicators here. GDP from construction, real estate loans, building permits, interest rates, COVID, inflation. Was there impact? Real estate moved the same way because it's not going to be as volatile. Even in times of uncertainty like this, it's not going to be as volatile as the stock market. But then again, not all property investments are the same. Location and developer commitment. See, in many places, they will often say location, location,
Mega
location.
love shoutout sa inyong lahat, sa Team Achievers.
In the Philippines, it's very
Tatay
different.
Aweng
The developer
and
can make the right
the rest
location.
of the Team Achievers.
And maybe the right
Team
location can
Pinoy
become a
po,
wrong location
Team Rocha,
if
Team
you have the
Albert,
wrong
Team Lasing,
local government
and
unit
Team
managing it.
Payaman. Mega love shoutout sa inyo. At,
So it's clear development commitment. For some of you who have participation in a place called New Valley, 10 years ago, or maybe 12, many people said, Rex, why will I go there? I mean, it's very far, right? Very far from Makati. Why will I go there? But you see, Ayala Land made a commitment and made it a new Makati. Low density, less pollution, offices, hospitals, schools, taken all together, including retail, and that's a full-blown community, over 2,500 hectares in total. The price of New Valley from launch is already 3 times now. In fact, more than 3 times, in fact. So it's a developer commitment. Growth centers that drive infrastructure, strategic infrastructure, and obviously brand strength or value over time. What we're talking about here is a track record. And I guess I don't have to kind of preach to the choir here. Ayala is Ayala. I think you all know that. And for my friends in LA, many of you have stayed in the US for so long, but I'm so sure you always remember Forbes Park, Dasmariñas Village, Bel Air, right? These are real, obvious manifestations of a great track record. Many people don't believe this. In the 60s, do you know where or what price Forbes and Dasma were launched? That's 88 pesos per square meter. That's less than $1.50 per square meter. You know how much it is today? It's 450,000 pesos per square meter. You can just imagine the amount of money that goes into a maid's room. Dati artista maibabahay mo, ngayon maid na lang. It's too much, right? But that's how it is. I mean, the creme de la creme of our country, bringing forth children in the best neighborhood and trading that off for a condo unit when they become empty nesters. And once they do that, they earn 18 to 19% compounded annual growth rate, most diversified. Now, it's in 57 growth centers across the country. There are 29 Ayala estates, and that's about 12,000 hectares in a land bank. In terms of businesses, we have a property development portfolio that cuts through from the very high end to socialized housing. Commercial leasing with our modern offices, hotels and resorts. You heard about El Nido, that's an Ayala Land resort. The flats in Laki now, service businesses. Many people here might be thinking, I'll buy real estate property in the Philippines. Who's going to manage that? We have Ayala Property Management Corporation, who we can partner with to be able to manage your unit while it's there. Air Swift is an airline. It is servicing El Nido. It will service our Sikogon resorts as well. So MDC is the biggest construction company in the Philippines. So you have all of these businesses taken together. We're here today because of Alveo. Alveo is an upscale brand of Ayala Land. But you see, on top of that confidence level of Ayala Land and the brand, we also have presence. Our office is here, within the same building of the Philippine Consulate building in San Francisco. So we have that commitment to even service you. We're here, right? It's unlike many others that would have, transactions with you and you never hear or see them again. So we have an office here, and that somehow puts a little bit of confidence in people. And as I've said, with the location having here in the Philippine Consulate building on Sutter Street is a plus, right? I mentioned we're thinking Alveo. We're showing our upscale portfolio. It is higher than middle class, and it is made up of quality materials and design, no matter what kind of project is. Alveo has a 20-year track record, 64 developments now, 41 are vertical, 23 are horizontal. We have presence and client reach in about 38 countries. We have 20 JV and JDA partners. We have turned over 24,401 units, a gross leasable area of 10.4 thousand square meters, and a land bank worth 76 billion pesos. So as it is, it's not just a pocket developer. If listed on the stock exchange, it's even going to be bigger than the other real estate companies. Alveo has won a record of 20 local and international accolades in a single year, and it has won 79 total awards from local and international real estate award-giving bodies. So, if you're going to be looking at products, we have residences designed for you to live well. We also have offices where employees and staff can work and grow together in flexible workspaces. But on top of that, Alveo is now moving in scale as well and is creating its own districts for the modern urban investor. As I've said, it's your upscale brand, and it's that brand that will carry you through and give you that real Ayala Land signature. Strong brand value, consistently built up over time, is the best guarantee of future earnings. I will not be able to talk about all of the details, and that's the reason why I would advise you to talk to your property specialist, the person who invited you here. They will be in a better position to know your needs, match things up for you, and come up with better options for you to execute on. The safe time to invest is when there is blood on the streets. I know that this has been a given all throughout the years, but really, it comes with great opportunity to move further. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the most important things that I can say. Investing in the Philippines gives you an opportunity of more earnings, as Ida said. More earnings. But that's not enough. I'd like you to also look at investing in real estate as a chance to give back to your country. Real estate is one of the most suitable products that will have the highest multiplier in terms of economic impact. Construction, service, supply, so many businesses are within real estate. It's not a simple purchase of a unit, a lot, or a house. It's a step towards nation building. And with that, I thank all of you for your presence here this afternoon. Maraming salamat po. At iikot po ako naman. Thank you.
Yan po si Mr. Rex Mendoza. At maraming salamat at mega love shoutout sa lahat.
Significant data
At
to help our guests today make them
thank
informed
you so much
decisions.
at samahan niyo po ako sa aking vlog today. Maraming salamat po sa pagsama niyo sa akin. Mega love shoutout sa inyong lahat.
The best products for you this afternoon.
Kay
So let
Erin
me
Polenday
introduce
at
our next guest speaker.
kay
She is an
Cobra
Ayala
Martin,
executive for 40 years.
kay Kelly Vlogs
7 years
at
of which
Anita
was
Bostanan,
devoted,
MD
focusing
Vlogs
on really a
Official.
day of
Mega love shoutout
projects.
sa inyong lahat.
But now
Maraming
she's
salamat.
already the regional head for Ayala Land in Asia, US, and Europe. So please help me welcome Regional Head, Ms. Carol Magpantay. Hi! Good morning!
Good morning.
I'm sure all surprised. Carol Magpantay, pero ito, di ba? Yes, I am Chinese, but I was born and raised in the Philippines. So talagang, alam niyo, in my heart, I'm Filipino. And I'm also married to a Filipino. So talagang Filipino ako. Do you mind if I conduct my presentation casually? Medyo magtatagish ako. Okay lang po ba? So we can better understand each other. Okay. So, sobrang kinakabahan po ako ngayon. You know, I'm coming after my boss, Sir Rex Mendoza. Talagang, oh my God, di ba? I hope I do him justice and really give you good recommendations today. So yun, my role this afternoon is actually to really give you good recommendations so that you can actually implement what Sir Rex has been talking about. Let's invest our money today. And there are really good opportunities right now. Okay. So the projects, there are actually two projects that I'm going to present to all of you, and both projects are actually located in Makati. Bakit ba Makati? Of all the estates we have, why Makati? As I travel, napansin niyo naman, di ba, I'm the regional head for a lot of areas eh. As I go around, whether I go to America, I go to Asia, or I go to Europe actually, or Australia, everybody still talks about Makati. And for good reason. It is still the central business district in the Philippines, even if there are already newer, CBDs coming, let's say out of Alabang, or let's say Quezon City, other areas, Ortigas, Makati is still the most prominent. And there's a good reason why. You know, the level of commitment of Ayala Land in Makati is so deep. Recently, we just reinvested 125 billion pesos. Just to make sure that Makati is updated and it keeps its lead over all the other estates in the coming decades. So what did we do with that money? We made sure that we updated all the hotels, the businesses, also the retail areas we expanded, and we also thought, there's a lot of room to grow in terms of entertainment. So we added that also. At the same time, the Makati city government is also very proactive. Makati is actually the wealthiest city in the Philippines. Even if it's not the biggest, it's not the capital, but it is the wealthiest. And the city government is so proactive. It has its own intra-city subway that will actually later be connected to the Mega Manila subway and to the MRT. So you can already imagine what will happen to the property prices within Makati. Diba? So I go to my project focus right now. The first project I'm going to tell you about is Mergent Residences. I'm very excited about this project. Ever since it was launched, I was dying to bring it to America. Kasi, alam niyo, this project kasi, I never had the chance to bring it kasi laging nauubos. Every time we sell out, every time we release some inventory, all the units smaller than 2-bedroom, all wipe out. All the Filipinos in the Philippines, all the foreigners in the Philippines, and foreigners in Asia, kasi mas malapit sa Philippines ubos. Wala na akong maidala dito. Alanganin naman konti-konti lang, di ba? Medyo tira-tira lang, pangit naman. So for the first time, we have actually good inventory to show to all of you, to share with all of you. Why is there so high demand for this project? There are 3 reasons. Number 1, it's because of the location. It's not just located in Makati. It is actually located very near the center of Makati CBD.
Thank you.
Diba? Kailan pa tayo nagkaroon ng ganyang opportunity? Bihira lang, diba? So you can see, it is actually surrounded by a lot of shopping malls. And then we also have very good graduate schools. And then there's a nearby Makati Medical Center. Siyempre, alam naman natin, in the center of the CBD are the offices of the top corporations in the Philippines. So talagang maganda in terms of rental yield. Also, in this area, the project is actually located right in Poblacion. Familiar po ba kayo sa Poblacion?
Yes, andyan ang office ko before.
Poblacion is the actually mecca of food and night spots in the Philippines. Hindi ko po alam kung nakarating dito sa US. Narinig niyo po ba yung Poblacion Girl?
Yes, tumakas sa quarantine.
Hindi ba?
dahil po nag-quarantine po siya sa poblasyon, hindi niya mapigilan sa sarili niya. Kailangan mag-party siya. Kasi this is really the place to gather with your friends, with your family. Hindi ba? So, aside from that, second reason is, this is not just a condominium development. This is actually a mixed-use development, combination of office, there's also residential, and there's going to be retail. And yung retail niya will actually be designed by Studio Taku Shimizu. Sino ba siya? Sino ba siya? They actually designed very famous spaces. Tokyo Midtown Retail in Japan, also the Sapporo Mitsui Building in Japan. In the Philippines, kung nakapunta na po kayo, nakita niyo po ba yung Bonifacio High Street Central in BGC? And in the upcoming project of Ayala Land Premier, Park Central Towers, they also designed the podium retail there. So you can already imagine, ano kaya magiging itsura ng retail area nito? 2 levels facing Makati Avenue. Definitely very high-end. Social, maganda. Definitely people will want to go there. So tataas na naman yung value ng property. Hindi ba? If that's not enough, those 2 reasons. Ito yung pinaka-compelling. This is actually the only Alveo residential property that allows short-term lease. Actually, sa buong Ayala Land yata eh. If you're familiar already an investor of Ayala Land, alamin niyo yun. Ayala Land allows long-term lease eh, at least 6 months. But with this project, pwedeng daily, pwedeng weekly, pwedeng monthly, pwedeng long-term. So, if you're familiar, nakapag-try na po ba kayo ng Airbnb dito? Sino po ba dito nakapag-try na? Diba? Isipin niya na lang po, Airbnb rates ang ilalagay niya dito kasi ang katabi niya, mga hotels. So even if i-discount mo na siya, let's say right now, magkano ba hotel rates ngayon? Maybe 5,000-6,000 per day, per night? Kalahatiin mo na, 3,000 na lang i-charge mo. Computed for 20 days lang. Let's say 20 days mo lang siya mapalis out in 1 month. Mas mataas pa rin ang rental yield mo compared to a guaranteed 1-month rate. Diba? And then you have that option. Pag uwi kayo sa Pilipinas, hindi na kayo mag-rent ng hotel, di kayo makikitira, kayo mismo magagamit itong space na ito, may enjoy your lifestyle. So maganda. Maganda siya. Kasi kitang-kita mo naman dun sa location ng property.
Mega love shout out Erwin Pulindoy, Cobra Martin, and the rest of the team achievers, Kerloy Vlogs, and Nita Bostanan, MB Vlog Official. Mega love shout out sa inyong lahat at thank you for joining me sa aking vlog na ito at maraming salamat sa inyo at naway nagkita-kita tayo pag uwi ko dyan sa Pilipinas at I'm planning to do something for the Team Achievers group.
Maganda po ba? Maganda, no? Alam niyo ha, this project was actually awarded the best high-end condominium development just recently by Carousel. So talagang maganda siya. And hindi lang siya maganda physically, maganda rin actually yung yield niya. Ito nagulat ako, when I plotted the price of Mergent residences from the launch date up to right now, I thought masyado pang maikli yung time. Kasi ano ba yun, 2.5 years? Tapos dumaan pa ng pandemic. But when I plotted and I computed it, nagulat ako, yung compounded annual growth rate ng property is almost 10% per annum. And dumaan pa ng pandemic. And to think, you know, when we launched this project, mas mahal na yung price per square meter niya compared to the other Alveo projects in Makati. Precisely because of the value proposition, short-term lease, at the same time, ang gandang location. So talagang solid yung performance niya. And ito, I just don't want to show it to you. Itong kind of yield na to, pwede po namin i-share sa inyo. Yun yung magandang opportunity right now. Kasi can you imagine, lahat ng bumili ng property na to, noong 2019, right before the pandemic, end of 2019 na po kasi yun eh. Pagkabili nila, tapos nag-shutdown sa Metro Manila. So long as they continued paying their monthly, their payments, umaakit na yung value ng property nila, pati yung wealth nila by almost 10% per annum. And sana gusto namin, ma-enjoy na rin sana yung ganitong klaseng yield. Okay, so I want to go through with you the computation. Sample computation po, okay. So this is a sample computation for a studio unit with Juliet balcony, 33 square meters. Ito po yung pinakamaliit na unit dito sa building na to. Okay, so the payment term is 10% down payment, 15% over 71 months, so parang 6 years po, and then balance. Okay, so list price po nito is almost $289,000. Ngayon, kung mapapansin nyo, bakit may 15% local discount? Nung hinilaunch po kasi namin tong property nito, alam niyo nagulat kami. Prior to the pandemic, the foreigners were buying the property by bulk. By bulk. And worried kami, gosh, mauubusan yung mga Filipinos dito. Eh, dapat tayo nakikinabang. So, we made a 15% local discount. So, if you buy this property, may advantage na po kayo over the foreigners. So, with the discount, bababa po yung price ng $247,000 US dollars. Tingnan nyo po, meron po tayong reservation fee. Ang reservation fee po natin is less than $1,000. What does the reservation fee do? It actually holds the unit for you. Akin na yan. Even if we raise the prices mamaya or bukas, hindi nagagalaw yung presyo ninyo. But of course, you have to follow the payment schedule, which means dapat in 30 days, dapat bayad po yung 10% down payment. So meron po kayong nakaset aside po dyan sa mga banks ninyo or sa mga stock market ninyo. I think this is a better place to... Magkano po ba yung $500 yun? Parang wala na masyadong value, hindi ba? Pero ito $500 in 6 years. And zero interest po siya. Ngayon, meron po tayong balance at the end. Meron po tayong $187,000 na balance in the end. What can we do? Sabi nga po ni Boss Rex, well, pwede naman tayo mag-take out ng bank loan. Pwede rin naman bayaran nyo in cash if you have that cash. Or combination. Hatiin ninyo. And by that time, pag take out kayo ng loan, the property will be delivered to you. Meron po kayong option, pa-lease out nyo na. So yung rent ninyo will already pay for the monthly amortization. Self-liquidating na siya, hindi ba? Ito papansinin po ninyo. With this payment term kasi basically 25% lang binabayaran natin in 72 months eh. So 6 years po yun. So aabot lang po ng almost $60,000 US dollars na po yung babayaran. Naalala niyo pa po magkano po yung compounded annual growth rate ng Mergent for the past 2.5 years? Nasa ilang percent po? Mga almost 10%. Pero ang gagawin ko po, I will project what will be the value of this property after 6 years. Assuming 6% na lang, huwag naman yung 10, baka masyado mataas eh. 6%, let's be conservative. Okay, the property value will appreciate to about close to $400,000 US dollars. Ibawas niyo po dyan yung purchase price niyo, so aabot po ng almost $150,000 yung yield. Tingnan niyo naman ang comparison, 59,000 lang po binayad ninyo. I think property investment kasi is I think one of the only, or if not the only, investment that allows you to pay in installments, hulog-hulog ka lang. But yung yield po, naka-base dun sa total value ng property, kahit di mo pabayad. All other investments naman kasi, di ba, ang yield naka-base naman, kung magkano pala nahulog mo eh. Magkano na ibigay mo. But this one, na-maximize mo talaga yung yield. Something to think about po, no? Gusto niyo po bang bigyan ko kayo ng tip? Maganda-gandang tip. For those people po na medyo ready na po talaga to make a reservation, make an investment, meron po ko magandang tip sa inyo. Alam niyo po, yung studio po kasi is the smallest unit we have. We have other unit types. Ngayon po, right now, meron po tayong good opportunity. There can be 3 lucky people right now. Meron po kami tinatawag na junior units. Junior 1 bedroom, nag-iisa po siya na available right now, at saka 2 pong junior 2 bedroom units. Ano po ibig sabihin nun? Ang junior, syempre, medyo mas maliit compared to the normal unit. Pero alam niyo po ba, ang price difference ng junior 1 bedroom at saka 1 bedroom, nasa 5 million pesos po. At ang price difference ng junior 2 bedroom versus sa 2 bedroom unit na regular size is 8 million po. Saan naman po natin napupulot yun, di po ba? So yun po, syempre pabilisan na lang po kasi nakita naman natin medyo marami po tayo ngayon. Sunod-sunod din po yung events namin. So kapag medyo ginaganahan na kayo, medyo kalabitin na lang muna yung property specialist na tatakbo na po siya agad. Okay? Okay po ba? Do you want me to give one more recommendation? One final recommendation for all of you. It's also located in Makati. This is Circuit Makati. You know, Makati naman is very prominent. Alam naman, kilala naman natin siya, di ba? Pero, how do you know Makati? It's really mostly for business. It's mostly for business. Parang kulang yung entertainment factor, parang kulang. Kulang in terms of driving the people to go to Makati other than business. That's why Ayala created Circuit Makati. Kailangan there's something more to drive people there. Now, this one, ang ganda ng location nito. This is also actually located very central to Makati. It's just at the end of Ayala Avenue. Dire-diretso yun lang po, makakarating na kay Circuit Makati. And notice po, right here, right outside Circuit Makati po, meron pong station dito yung Makati Intra-City Subway that will be later connected to the Mega Manila Subway and the MRT. So nakikita niyo yung infrastructure na magiging progress dito sa area na to. And ito po, this is really a very, very good master plan. Alam mo, this project is very close to my heart. Kasi this is a perfect mix actually of, there's office there. So there are already, pala kayo ng elevator, nandiyan na. Makakapanood ka na ng sine, makakapanood ka ng stage play, pwede kang mag-shopping, pwede kang manood ng go out with your friends or your family. Hindi ka na lalabas, hindi ka mauulanan, you don't need a ride. You can enjoy your life there. So, napaka-powerful po. And alam niyo, lalo ko na-appreciate to kasi I was able to convince my mom to actually buy unit here. So, nung nag-pandemic, buti na lang, nakapag-move in na sila prior to the pandemic. So, hindi ko siya nakikita for some months din. Hindi ako nag-worry kasi senior citizen siya eh. Hindi ako nag-worry na paano na, pagka nainip siya sa unit niya, anong gagawin niya, bababa siya, baka mamaya magkasakit siya, baka kung anong mangyari sa kanya. Hindi, kasi yung building itself, sobrang regulated yung movements on property management. Paglabas po niya dun sa mall, parang extension po yun ng building nila. So she can safely go around, na hindi ako nag-worry. She can do her essentials, go to the bank, go to the drugstore, go to her shopping. Hindi ako nag-worry. Pwede po siya bumaba, kakain, hindi na kailangan lagi nagluluto. Hindi ba? So, sobrang na-appreciate ko yung lifestyle dito. And dito pa, maganda dito right now kasi we already have 2 projects na na-launch dito. The first one is Solstice Makati. Solstice, and then the second one is Callisto. Callisto actually is the fastest selling Alveo project in Makati. Sobrang bilis ng benta nito prior to the pandemic. Actually, yung sequel po nito, dapat matagal na lumabas. Nagkaroon na ng designing na hassle, kaya po na-delay lang po. Pero actually, dati pa po, wala na halos mabenta dito. And right now, we're so fortunate kasi po, na-timingan po natin yung launch po of its newest project, which is Astela. Ito po siya. Astela is very close to the circuit lane. So, ang ganda po ng views. Ang ganda po ng views nito. So, this one, bagong-bago lang po. Actually, gano'ng kabago? Parang halos last week lang po siya na-launch. Ganun kabago. Ibig po sabihin, you would have your choice of units that you want. You want east-facing, you want high-level floor, low levels. Anong unit type po, meron po tayo may offer sa inyo. And yun na nga po, to better visualize. Alam niyo maganda sa circuit? Marami po sa mga pinanggit ko sa inyo, nandiyan na po. It's operational already, you can already see it. But the good thing about circuit is it hasn't reached its potential yet. Naalala ko si BGC when it was starting eh. Nandiyan na yung market, nandiyan na yung Bonifacio High Street. Pero konti pa lang ang tao. Hindi pa ganun karaming tao. But now nakita niya naman yung development and I think ito din yung malulook forward to natin in Circuit Makati. So please watch this. Alam niyo, so when my mom was getting her unit, tina-turn over po sa kanya, would you believe, doon po sa lobby ng building, nakapila po yung mga real estate brokers. Nag-aabang ng unit ng mga owners na ipapalis out yung unit nila. Kasi sobrang dami gusto mag-rent. Kasi nga po, may office po right beside yung residential condominium. Hindi na mahihirapan yung mga mag-rent. So, this one, ito po, this is also a sample computation. This is also the smallest unit, 33 square meters. So, ang payment scheme po nito, sorry po, this is 10% down payment and 20% lang po in 83 months or 7 years. So, this one po, kung mapapansin niyo na, the price per square meter dito and the total price is actually lower than Mergent residences. Okay? Yung discounting po, meron din po siyang discount. It's slightly lower din po at 10%. The net price will go down to about $202,000. The reservation fee is the same. There's also a 10% down payment. The monthly amortization is almost the same po. Almost $500. Yung balance lang po, syempre, mas mababa. Kasi po this one, 7 years yung binabayaran, 0 interest. At saka, di ba, yung price per square meter nga po, mas mababa talaga. And the same lang din po yung concept. Tingnan nyo po to. Total payment nyo in 7 years is just $58,000. Pero estimated appreciation, assuming na lang po a conservative 6% compounded annual growth rate, is going to be, the yield is going to be about $122,000 US dollars. So baka by now nag-iisip kayo, ano ba Carol, dahil mo pinakita sa akin, hindi ako makapag-design. Ano ba mas maganda sa dalawang pinakita ko? Alam niyo actually, yung dalawang projects na pinakita ko, it depends on you. It depends on your purpose. If you're looking for investment, if you're looking for something na gusto po ninyong rental lang, you're not sure kung babalik kayo sa Philippines, but you want to visit from time to time, siguro mas maganda mag-Mergent na kayo. But if later on you plan to retire in the Philippines, live in the Philippines, and at the same time, bago pa kayo bumalik, ipa-lease out niyo na muna yung property, siguro mag-Circuit Makati na po kayo. Pero siguro the better option is, sana meron kayong funds to invest in both properties. Di ba? Kasi mahirap mawalan. Alam niyo
Magbebenta
po,
muna ako ng
isipin niyo
ginto.
na lang ha. Makati pinag-uusapan ko, CBD po to. Isipin niyo po ba in 5 to 10 years, meron pa kaya kami may offer sa inyo ng installment? Makati po pinag-uusapan natin, hindi po ba? The likelihood na mga anak po natin, mga apo ninyo, makakabili pa sa Makati. Pwede siguro, pero siguro dapat cash na. Pwede siguro, pero siguro sobrang mahal na. Pero this is really one of the rare opportunities that I can give you really good offers right now. And sana you can take advantage of it. Kasi ako nga rin po recently, kakatapos ko lang po magbayad ng property. Kung kailan pa naman nag-eleksyon, lahat ng tao natatakot, ay ayoko na muna bumili. Tigil mo na ako. Ako parang, ay hindi, kailangan bumili ako kaagad. Kasi kung hindi ako bumili kaagad, magagastos ko lang yung pera, natatakot ako. Diba? Sanay na kasi ako nagbabayad every month. Eto na eh. Fully paid na. Tapos ayoko bumili ng bago. Ay naku, baka ipang-shopping ko lang yun. Diba nakakatakot? So sabi ko, ay bibili na ako kaagad. Wala akong pakialam sa sinasabi ng iba. Anyway, kailan ba mataturn over yung property? After what? 5, 6, 7 years? By then, iba na presidente. Hindi ba? Iba na presidente. And by then, yung subway operational na. And sabi nga po ni Sir Rex, kapag yung infrastructure nandiyan na, ang unang affected talaga na aakyat is the property prices po talaga. And I hope po talaga, today, you can already make a decision kasi po yung binigay kong tip sa inyo, sana po naalala niyo po kasi totoo pong tip yun. Sana po you can take advantage of it. And we're all here to help you out today. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Yan po, mega love shoutout sa lahat. Yan po yung event na
Thank you, Ms. Carol, for the presentation.
naganap
That
dito
actually
sa
sums up
San
our program for
Francisco,
this
California.
afternoon. So, of course, we cannot really guarantee the future, but what we can
Mega love
guarantee
shoutout
with you is
at
we will
hanggang
come
sa
back.
muli nating
And
vlog.
hopefully
This is
by
Ka
that
DIY.
time, we can still invite
Maraming
you,
salamat
but
sa inyong lahat
definitely
at
it will be a different
mega
budget,
love shoutout
different
sa
price.